In the age of this technology overload and information overload, I think it's very important to understand what our children are thinking, perceiving, interpreting. And therefore, Thought Programmers Hub is like a thought tracker of every child who is enrolled with us. How is this a thought tracker? So, as a parent, you might ask your child to read a book or ask a child to watch something, a good movie, an educational movie, ask a child to pay attention in the class, or ask kids to be excited about watching something together, or expecting them to obey at school or at home, and the child is watching all the time. Whether they are learning, they are watching how technology is working, how teachers are talking, how children are behaving. They are watching, observing and listening all the time. But how many times do you think a child is able to express whatever the child is observing, and how accurately is the child able to interpret and express whatever they are observing? Think about it. Again, when we take children outside, or when children go to school, even when they used to go to school physically, so much of observation all the time, but they never really gave it a thought about what their interpretations were. Whatever they observe, it's not enough to just absorb and observe. It's important to be able to express those, because if what we interpret, what our children interpret, is not correct, unethical, immoral, or totally inaccurate or confusing, that is what leads to depression, that is what leads to suicidal thoughts, that is what leads to the conflict in their mind, that is what leads to low self esteem, that is what leads to any evil that is existing, because we don't really manage to track their thoughts. The thought tracking process is the key to actually reduce suffering. It is the key to bring more peace in the world, because once you're able to track the thoughts of kids, and the more comfortable that they get by expressing their thoughts about whatever they're observing, and through different kinds of formats of talking, or through different kinds of topics that they're exposed to, through different setups in which they have to talk, that is what leads to lesser complications and conflicts in the child's mind. A simple, I used to write a lot, and I do write even now, but I truly believe when I'm able to talk about it with people I care for, or who care for me, or when I'm now able to talk about things in a public way, but of course in a more dignified way, by taking care of all kinds of stakeholders, keeping in mind everybody's respect for their hard work. I think it is still very important to keep in mind that the thought tracking process is what is lacking in today's society. Earlier, there was less information, but whatever information was there, people had channels to be able to express. There wasn't much to, express at the end of the day. Today, when a child is even going through a YouTube channel, or when a child is just going through websites, so much of information is being bombarded and given to the child. But how many times are the children actually being able to express it? Today's kids are so smart. After watching all those movies and those playing those video games, their minds develop so many ideas about so many things, and it is so important, it is so essential, it is the need of the hour to be able to track their thoughts, to see in which direction it is going. And I'm surprised at times, how deep children observe the video games, the books they read, and just not being able to write it but talk about it. Because I'm also a columnist, and I know this, that when I write, at times I'm more careful. Or when children are small, they feel lazy to be able to express everything down, but when they have to talk, they find it more comfortable to be able to talk and express whatever is in their mind. It's difficult to control that once you feel comfortable enough to talk. May not be easy for every child to be able to write down everything, and it's not the same for me as well. Even though I feel that when I have to write a column, I should be able to express everything, but it's a different story, and when I talk about it, it comes more easily. And I've seen that with kids as well. well, kids can write, but there is a certain style and requirement that is there. But when it comes to talking, it gets more raw and real, and the more raw and real it gets, that is what eventually is appreciated in today's world, when we see the best of TEDx's, when we see the best of speakers really making their unique place in the world and standing out for what they think and how they think and why they think about those things.